Am I the a-hole for refusing to take in my disabled brother? So, I have an estranged, intense relationship with my mom, and a lot of her side of the family. When I was 21, I became a single father to my daughter, Cece. I was working overnights in a warehouse, had to move back in with my mom and younger golden brother. I'll just call him Golden Boy going forward, as Cece's egg donor just decided she'd rather live the socialite life than be a mother. My mom was helpful with Cece when it was convenient for her. So if she had a rough day at work, she was more concerned with having a drink and unwinding than helping with her granddaughter. Golden Boy, though, I could write a book about how incompetent and useless he was. One day that is burned into my memory. Cece was only about 8 months old at the time. On my way home from work one morning, I got stuck in traffic on the way back. Tried calling home and let them know what was going on, and Cece likely needed to be fed. I get home almost 2 hours after clocking out. I hear Cece crying in our room and Golden Boy is sitting on the couch. He says something that almost sets me off like, "About damn time, she's been crying." I explain there was an accident blocking traffic I got caught in and ask him why she's crying. "Dunno," is all I get in response. Ask him for how long as I'm heading into my room. According to him, she had been crying for almost an hour, soiled diaper and hungry. Golden Boy couldn't be bothered to even check on her. After a couple years of these two acting like this, especially Golden Boy, I'm on the phone with my dad and stepmom. He offered me help with raising her, getting my life on track, etc. Cliff notes of what happened next. Cece's egg donor gets parental rights terminated, essentially leaving her without a legal mother. Mom starts giving me grief about running away from family responsibilities. Golden Boy is talking about what he's going to do to my room once we're gone. I'm packing everything up and make a 1,100-mile road trip several states away with a toddler with my phone turned off because my mom was blowing it up, demanding that I turn around and bring her only grandchild back to her. Since then, did meet a woman that is phenomenal with Cece. Got married. She adopted Cece officially a couple years ago, right after Mother's Day. We also have an 8-year-old son. We have made trips back to my hometown several times over the years, usually for holidays or stopping by on our way to Orlando. Hometown is in Florida, by the way. And over the years, Golden Boy has not shown the slightest interest in growing up or not being absolutely disgusting. I'm pretty sure there are stories about him on the Neckbeard subreddit. Details about Golden Boy. He's 36 years old now, still lives at home with mom. He's been on disability for a while, not entirely sure how long, for seizures. He had them as a teenager, then stopped for a while, came back as an adult, and his fast food job couldn't keep him around. Can't have someone having a seizure around hot oil and sharp knives. So he and my mom went through the process of getting him on some sort of disability, so he does nothing but sleep and play video games all day. He thinks he's the cool uncle for some reason. Legit has those words on his Facebook. We never stay with them when we're in town, and Cece has been very vocal over the last 6 years that he makes her feel very uncomfortable. When she was 12, he offered to let her smoke or drink with him. She's smart enough to say no. Since to him, kids your age are gonna do it anyway. Might as well do it with an adult you trust. Or talk about his relationships. Last one was, no lie, 17 years ago, in uncomfortable detail, with his child niece. He even has to be reminded to freaking bathe. Both Cece and my 8-year-old son have called him out for smelling like straight-up BO and cat pee, which according to my mom is rude and uncalled for. And I need to make this part clear. He has never been diagnosed as autistic, developmentally challenged, or neurodivergent in any way. He's just been raised to be entitled and lazy. But that's everything up to this. We recently got back from an Orlando trip, passed through my hometown without stopping. Got that guilt-laden phone call from my mom about how they missed us, etc. Whatever. And she drops this thing. She updated her will to leave everything split between me and Golden Boy, and she wants me to take him in and take care of him if anything happens to her. I couldn't help but laugh and tell her, exact words, not a snowflake's chance in hell is he ever living with us. She knows he makes Cece uncomfortable, but her logic is since she's going off to college soon and will be out and on her own soon, that means we'll have the space for him and Cece won't have to worry about him. She goes on to explain that he can't take care of himself because of his seizures. He can't cook for himself, he can't clean up after himself, and he can't remember to bathe unless he's reminded. Then she started going on about how Cece shouldn't feel uncomfortable around him because he openly talked about his sex life to his niece when she was 12, because he doesn't know better. Last thing I said to her was, "You are describing someone that needs assisted living, not a room in a house with people unqualified to provide the assistance he clearly needs. And I'm not making my kids spend time around anyone that makes them feel uncomfortable, family or not. So honestly, I don't even really care if I'm the a-hole or not. This whole thing just started pissing me off." Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, F that guy. Block her OP. Not just about blocking her, it's about cutting her out for good. I know people with insane parents, and in my opinion, it's way better to have no family at all than to let someone like that keep poisoning your life. Not the a-hole, but ask for a copy of the will. If it's guardianship of the man-child, then put him in assisted living. I plan on consulting a lawyer to make sure my bases are covered. But from what my wife and I found is that there's no sibling responsibility laws in Florida or Texas, where we are, and they can't legally make me take him in. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm confident of this. She can put whatever the heck she wants in her will. That doesn't mean you have to take him in, although depending on your location and how smart her lawyer is, that might mean you don't get whatever your inheritance would be. Not the a-hole, and I'm surprised you're still in touch with either of them. I wouldn't be. I mainly keep in touch with her for my kids' sake. Dad and stepmom passed 6 and 4 years ago. Mom got sober a few years after I left, and although I still keep her at a distance, I can at least say she's a decent grandmother now, current situation excluded. But as it stands, if my inheritance is dependent on taking him in, I'm more than willing to just let everything go. Yeah, if you had to look after your brother for the rest of his life, it would cost an awful lot more than whatever your mother will be leaving you as an inheritance. Unless your mother is an heiress, which I doubt is the case given your story. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to loan money to my sister for my niece's college fund after she spent most of it on prom? So I, 37 female, have a sister, 40 female, who's a single mom to my niece, 17 female. She's done most of it on her own since her daughter was born. And while we've had ups and downs, I've always tried to be supportive. My husband and I have a 14-year-old daughter ourselves, and we're not exactly rolling in it either. But we've been careful, planned ahead, and have tried to keep things stable. About 5 years ago, I started contributing money toward a college fund for my niece. Nothing huge, just here and there. Birthdays, tax return leftovers, a couple hundred from my bonus. That kind of thing. My sister said she was adding some too, and over time it grew to just over $11,000. The entire idea, which we both agreed on, was that it was for college only. Not rent, not clothes, not bills, and definitely not prom. Well, prom was in late April. My niece looked absolutely beautiful. She had this pale blue fitted dress. Her hair was done in this really pretty updo. Makeup was on point. Nails, shoes, they all looked great. She and her friends got a limo, went to some Italian restaurant before the dance, and did a little photo shoot thing. It wasn't celebrity level extravagant, but it was definitely expensive. I remember seeing the photos and thinking, wow, they all look amazing. Followed immediately by, how exactly did they pay for this? So earlier this week, I was going over some financial stuff. I've been managing the account the college fund is in since it's technically in my name too. And I see that about $7,000 is gone with no explanation. It wasn't hacked or anything. It was my sister. She used it to cover prom expenses and didn't even mention it to me. When I called her, she didn't even seem that surprised to hear from me. She was kind of cagey at first, then got defensive and said she only used some of the fund and that there's still enough for a couple of semesters at community college if my niece doesn't get a scholarship somewhere else. Like, that makes it okay. I told her I was shocked she didn't ask me, and she just went off about how it was her daughter's only prom, that she deserved something special, and how she's been through so much lately and she just wanted her to feel like she belonged. I get that things have been rough for them, but I still couldn't believe she just dipped into that money like it was hers. Then she hits me with, I was gonna rebuild the fund over the summer anyway, but I'm short now. Can you spot me like $2,000 just for now? I told her no. I didn't yell or anything, just a clear no. And now it's a full-on meltdown. She said I'm holding money over her head, that I'm showing my true colors, that I don't really care about her or my niece, and now she's dragged our mom and other relatives into it. My mom texted me this whole long thing about families sticking together and how prom only happens once. And the worst part? My niece texted me too. She said she didn't know the money came from her college fund and she's sorry, and that she doesn't want me and her mom to fight. And now I feel like absolute garbage. But like, what was I supposed to do? I've got my own daughter, and we've been saving bit by bit for her too. I can't just casually drop thousands of dollars to refill a fund someone else emptied without even telling me. My husband agrees with me and said if we want to help my niece with college in the future, we can, but not directly through my sister. I love my niece and I want her to succeed, but I don't trust my sister with money anymore, and I'm sick of being made out to be some villain for having boundaries. $7K for prom? Why do I believe that she took some and put it in her own pocket? Was her dress couture? Custom made with actual diamonds? Your sister has definitely been pilfering. There is no way it cost $7,000. None. OP, your sister did something else with the money, unless she paid for everything for the whole group and then some. I know prom dresses can be expensive, but they don't have to be. I'd ask your sister for itemized receipts for prom. Tell her you want to understand exactly how the money was spent, because you do not understand how it is possible to spend $7,000 on prom when most people spend a small fraction of that and have a gorgeous prom. I know other parts of the country are different, but we live in a fairly high cost of living area, and I've never known a family to spend more than $800 to $1,000 total on prom, and that includes a share of a party bus, a nice dinner, etc. Why doesn't your niece have a job? The only way for kids to become financially literate is for them to be taught. My granddaughter's dress cost $15 and a dry cleaning bill. She does, but it had been going towards saving up for an apartment plus some of my sister's bills, and I don't know if that's changed since she found out about the money from her college fund being used for prom. Time for your sister to learn a valuable lesson about FAFO. Do not contribute anything to an account she has access to. Frankly, I would withdraw any funds equal to what you have contributed. You can create a separate account over which you have sole control, and you can make withdrawals or payments directly to a higher learning facility. But sis doesn't get to touch it, ever. Maybe give your niece the benefit of the doubt. Not that I'm not skeptical, but no one gets to distribute funds but you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to give my parents a chance to know my kids because I want to break the cycle of verbal abuse? Growing up, my parents were verbally abusive. It was a generational thing because my mom's parents were exactly the same, and apparently her grandparents were too. It wasn't just from parent to child either, but grandparent to child and grandchild too. So I got that treatment from both of my parents and both of my maternal grandparents. And when my mom knew she'd see her parents soon, she'd be even more verbally abusive. There was a lot of control involved in it. Do this, do that. And when we, because I had siblings, did it wrong or did it in a way other than how our parent or grandparent wanted us to do it, we were useless, worthless, dumb, idiots, unintelligent, etc. My mom and grandma were big on the whole, girls need to learn homemaking early, and I was expected to cook for my family when my mom wanted nights off, and she expected me to cook exactly like her without being shown. Any mistake, like forgetting the salt, or any inconsistency, like it didn't look the same, and I was a screw-up, and any woman should know how to do those things well, and I was a failure. I struggled a lot with math, and I got B's and C's in math class. That was not okay. My dad would scream when he saw it. My mom would tell me I was only struggling because I wasn't doing enough, and that I should study math until my fingers were bleeding and my eyes were sore and dry, and if I had to, I should stay up all night and study. One time they cut a teacher off when she was saying I was doing really well in math considering, and they said, "No, don't coddle her. She's just a lazy freaking kid." And I didn't need to be praised for not really trying. My teacher tried to explain to them that I was trying, but they just verbally berated me in front of her and told her she was wrong to acknowledge my effort. The R word was used that night in front of my teacher, and after that, at least at school, I was given more support to help me keep my grades high. I know she reported my parents to CPS too, but they didn't find verbal abuse to be good enough to intervene, I guess. I was also called a whore by my dad at 12 because I wore some lip gloss a friend had put on me at school. And there's so much more. I mean, my own grandparents called me a good example of why abortion should always exist and why it's needed. They had something similar to say for all their grandkids. All of it continued until I moved out and went no contact at 18. My siblings all had to deal with that stuff too, but while I went no contact, they stayed around our parents and have all repeated the cycle with their own kids. I have stayed determined to break the cycle, and one way of doing that for me is keeping them far away from me and my kids, who are still babies right now, but I am determined to do better for my children. My husband supports this, but my mother-in-law lives with a lot of regret for her own no-contact situation with her parents, and she advocates against no contact now. I think in her head, all teens blow stuff up into being worse than it is, because she feels like she did it, and that attempts should be made so you don't live with regret. She has asked me what the harm is with my parents knowing my kids if I'm in the room to protect them, and I said the harm is that you can't take back what's said once it happens. You can leave fast, but it still happened. And how many chances do you give if you try? Because it becomes a pattern, and it gets internalized by kids, even if it happens infrequently. I said it doesn't need to be contact every day or week for it to stay with you. She talked about her feelings after her mom died, and I sympathized with her, but said it was different. I know she is now stressed out that I would not try. She said she's so afraid of me walking her path. But I have never regretted going no contact, and I see it as the only way to ensure my kids are safe. I don't trust that my parents will ever be capable of change or doing better. And history shows that these people are not better grandparents than parents. But I know I haven't had anything to do with my parents in over a decade now, so maybe I'm being unfair? And for that reason alone, even though I feel so strongly about this, I'll ask if I'm the a-hole for not giving them a chance. Even half a chance by trying to make contact one time. Now for the comments. You're not heartless for protecting your babies. You're the cycle breaker your whole bloodline needed. Love doesn't always look like connection. Sometimes it's fierce distance. Make it clear to mother-in-law that this is not negotiable and any interference will not be tolerated. Not the a-hole. There have been too many examples on Reddit of friends, family, girlfriend, boyfriend trying to fix these situations and screwing things up royally. Not the a-hole. You're protecting your kids, and that's what real cycle breaking looks like. Blood doesn't excuse damage. Healing starts with boundaries, and you're setting the bar. I've found that blood relations can hurt and treat you worse than anyone else in your life. Sometimes it's unintentional. Other times, it's a true long-standing generational trauma and a cycle nobody wants to or can break. But someone needs to.